the last lecture, we studied about the lesson, the making of a scientist. We read some part of the lesson and today we will do the rest part of this lesson. But before we start, let me summarize what we have already read. In the last lecture, what we read about, it is the story of Richard Albright. Now, Richard Albright, how he was turned into a great scientist. And we are studying his life from the very beginning, from his childhood, from his kindergarten when he was at home or he was in play school. He was a very curious and intelligent child. And his mother gifted him a book, and that book also aroused his curiosity, and he started studying about butterflies. And then as he was in junior classes, still in junior classes, he had already collected 25 species of butterflies. But this could have ended his, he was getting, and he also came in contact with Dr. Rigard, and he started studying about butterflies, he started tagging them. But in the meantime, he could have lost his interest, but that book kept his interest aroused, and he kept on searching about these butterflies. And he presented some projects in the school, and where he got prizes also. In the first project, it was not very successful, he was a failure, but he was determined, he was having a competitive spirit, and that led him to success in the next year. And he studied about the viral diseases that could also kill butterflies, all that he studied. And next, when it is given that next year his science fair project was testing the theory that viceroy butterflies copy monarchs. So now next project he chose was that viceroy's butterflies, they copy monarch butterflies. And the theory was that viceroy look like monarchs because monarchs don't taste good to birds. And what was the reason? What was the theory? That viceroy butterflies, why do they copy monarchs? Because they, these birds, they don't like monarch butterflies. They eat viceroy butterflies but don't eat monarch butterflies. And viceroys, on the other hand, do taste good to birds. And birds, they don't eat monarch butterflies but they eat viceroy butterflies only. So more they look like monarchs, the less likely they are to become a bird's dinner. So if they look like monarchs, they would not be eaten by birds. A bright project was to see whether in fact the birds would eat monarchs. So now he studied all that. It was a theory only, but he studied in practical way that whether it actually happens or not. And he found that a starling would not eat ordinary bird food. Starling is actually a European bird. And starling, that bird, he did not like viceroy, he did not like ordinary food eaten by other birds. He liked only monarch butterflies. Okay, and later, Albright said, later research by other people showed that viceroy probably do copy monarch. And other people also researched on this topic, and they also found that viceroy butterflies do copy monarchs. This project was placed first in the zoology division, and third overall in the county science fair. County science fair means regional science fair, he got third position. In his second year in the high school, Richard Albright began the research that led to his discovery of an unknown insect hormone. And now in the next second year, he studied one more project that led to the discovery of an unknown insect hormone. Indirectly, it also led to his new theory on the life of cells. Now he also indirectly, it was about the cells, that how do they work, the life of the cells. The question he tried to answer was simple. What is the purpose of the 12 tiny gold spots on a monarch pupa? So now the question that came to his mind was, why there were gold spots on the monarch butterflies, monarch pupa. Actually egg, then caterpillar, and then pupa, and then ultimately the butterfly comes out. So pupa is the third stage where that develops some gold spots. So why these gold spots are there? He wanted to study that. Everyone assumed the spots were just ornamental. All the ordinary people, they assumed that they were all ornamental, they were decorative, that makes it beautiful. Ebright said, but Dr. Ugard did not believe it. Now, Dr. Ugard also did not believe it. He also wanted to study that why these gold spots are there. To find out the answer, Ebright and another excellent science student first had to build a device that showed that the spots were producing a hormone necessary for the butterfly's full development. So now one of his classmates, they had to make a device that could find out that what is the necessity of these gold spots, how they are producing the hormone in butterflies. This project won Ebright first place in the county fair and entry into the International Science and Engineering Fair. So now this way he got exposure for international fairs also. There he won third place for zoology. He also got a chance to work during the summer at the entomology laboratory of the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research. Entomology is the science of studying insects. And he studied insects and he got a chance to work in the entomology laboratory of Walter Reed Army Institute of Research. So this way he got chance also. As a high school junior, Richard Ebright continued his advanced experiments on the monarch pupa. And as a junior student, he kept on searching about these monarch pupa. That year, his project won first place at the International Science Fair and gave him another chance to work in the Army laboratory during the summer. And this also gave him chance to work again in the Army laboratory. In his senior year, he went a step further. He grew cells from a monarch's wing in a culture and showed that the cells would divide and develop into normal butterfly wing scales only if they were fed the hormone from the gold spots. So next what he did, he grew cells from the monarch's wing and into he developed that in culture, in proper conditions he put that and showed that the cells would divide and develop into normal butterfly. These cells, a single cell could develop into a normal butterfly and only if they were fed the hormone from the gold spots. And that hormone he took from the gold spots of any old butterfly and that was really helpful in developing that butterfly. So this project won first place for zoology at the international fair and now he got prize at international fair. He spent the summer after graduation doing further work at the Army laboratory and at the laboratory of the US Department of Agriculture. So now he also got a chance to work in the US Department of Agriculture. The following summer, after his freshman year at Harvard University, now he got admitted in Harvard University and Ebright went back to the laboratory of the development of the agriculture and did more work on the hormone from the gold spot. Now again in summer he again went back to the same laboratory and he studied about these gold spots. Using the laboratory's sophisticated instruments, he was able to identify the hormone's chemical structure. Now he was having some sophisticated laboratory and that's why he was able to study the hormone chemical structure also. A year and a half later, during his junior year, Ebright got the idea for his new theory about cell life. So now, a year and a half later, when he was doing his researches, he got the idea for his new theory about cell life. He actually studied cell life also. And it came while he was looking at X-ray photos of the chemical structure of a hormone. And when he was looking at the chemical structure of a hormone, he came to that idea that how he could study about cell life. When he saw those photos, Ebright did not shout, "Eureka!" or even "I have got it." He did not show his excitement, but he believed that along with his findings about insect hormone, the photos gave him the answer to one of biology's puzzles. But he had got answers to one of biology's difficult question, and that was how the cells can read the blueprint on its DNA. Actually, the cell is having nucleus, and nucleus it is having in further it is having DNA also. So how this blueprint is got on the cell can read the blueprint of a DNA, because DNA is responsible. From the DNA we can study that what are the characteristics, whether it is a man or a woman, everything we can collect from DNA. So how this DNA work? And DNA is the substance in the nucleus of a cell that controls heredity. The heredity, that what the qualities that we inherit, we take it from the parents. It determines the form and function of the cell. It also determines the form and function of cell. Thus, DNA is the blueprint for life. So, DNA is the main thing. DNA is the blueprint from life. That from that we can get anything we want about that any person. A Bright and his college roommate James R. Wong worked all that night drawing pictures and constructing plastic models of molecules to show how it would happen. So now a Bright and his college schoolmate James R. Wong, he was his classmate also, they worked all night making models, plastic models of the molecule, drawing structures, how it could happen. And together they later wrote the paper that explained the theory, and that we have discussed in the beginning. That theory which was published in the journal, reputed journal, that was this theory, the theory of cell. Surprising, no one knew him. Richard Bright graduated from Harvard with highest honors. Now, anybody who knew Bright was not surprised at all, because they knew that he was very intelligent and he had a lot of curiosity and he could do what he wanted. So they were all very happy, and then Bright got his degree with highest honors from Harvard, second in his class of 1510 students. It was a class of 1510 students and he got second rank. Now you can guess how intelligent he was. Bright went on to become a graduate student researcher at Harvard Medical School. So Bright also went to become a graduate student researcher at Harvard Medical School. There he began doing experiments to test his theory, and now he further studied cell structure and all that, his theory. If the theory proves correct, it will be a big step towards understanding the processes of life. So now if his theory proves right, it will be better to understand, it will be helpful to understand the process of life. It might also lead to new ideas for preventing some types of cancer and other diseases, because they could study cells and this could lead to study about various cancer types of cancers and how they can be prevented. All of this is possible because of Bright's scientific curiosity, and all this happened only because of his scientific curiosity. He was curious, he was having that eagerness. His high school research into the purpose of the sports on a monarch pupa eventually led him to his theory about cell life. And in the high school he was studying about monarchs, gold sports, and ultimately that led to the theory of cells. Richard Bright has been interested in science since he first began collecting butterflies. So naturally from the very beginning he showed his interest in science as he collected butterflies, but not so deeply that he has no time for other interests. But that was not, he was not interested in anything else. He had collected butterflies, he was interested in science, but he was also interested in other fields also. Bright also became a champion debater. He was a debater, strong debater and public speaker, and a good canoeist. Canoeist is a boat. He was good at canoeing also, and all-round outdoor person. He was outdoor activities, he was very active. He is also an expert photographer, particularly of nature and scientific exhibits, and he is expert photographer also, nature photography, science photography, he did so well. In high school, Richard Bright was a straight A student. Straight A student means every time he got A grades, he was intelligent, and because learning was easy, he turned a lot of his energy towards the debating and model United Nations clubs. And as he was intelligent, so he could learn everything very quickly. So he spent rest of his energy, he spent rest of his time on other things like debating and Model United Nation clubs. He also was a part of the clubs. He also found someone to admire, Richard Wehrer, his social studies teacher and advisor to both clubs. And he was admired by Richard H.A. Wehrer. Wehrer was his social science teacher, and he also admired him a lot, and he was the club head of those two clubs also. Mr. Wehrer was the perfect person for me then. He opened my mind to new ideas, Ebright said. And Ebright praised him so much that he was the person who opened his eyes. He says that he opened his eyes to this science world. Richard would always give that extra effort, Mr. Wehrer said. Now, what Mr. Wehrer has opinion about Richard, he says that he would always give extra effort. He would not be like a normal child. What pleased me was, here was that person who put in 3 or 4 hours at night doing debate research, besides doing all the research with butterflies and his other interests. He was interested in science. He did experiments on butterflies and all that. But with that, he spent 3 to 4 hours every day every night for this debate competitions. He prepared for those debate competitions. Richard was competitive. He was having a competitive spirit. But Wehrer continued, but not in a bad sense. But he was not only competing, he was not jealous of anybody else, or he was competing in a very positive way. Richard was not interested in winning for winning's sake or winning to get a prize. He was not interested only in winning prizes or just for the winning's sake, but he wanted to actually study the things. Rather, he was winning because he wanted to do the best job he could do. Yes, he wanted to do his best. And for the right reasons, he wants to be the best. And that is one of the ingredients in making of a scientist. And all these are the ingredients of making okay, these are the qualities which are required to become a scientist. And start with the first-rate mind, add curiosity, and mix in will to win for the right reasons. So these are the qualities. He first-rate mind, he was having a sharp mind, he was having curiosity, and added with that, he was having the will to win. He was a determined child. And Ebright has 3 qualities. From the time the book, The Travels of the Monarchs, opened the world of science to him, Richard Ebright has never lost his scientific curiosity. From the very beginning, when he had got the book presented by his mother, he aroused his scientific curiosity, and that remained till end. So this is what the making of a scientist teaches. Now, what this lesson has taught us, that how determined we should be, how we can, if we have the will to win, we can do anything in this world. And now how he started in the very beginning. It is not there when we will grow up, we will do this and that. But we have to start from the very beginning. And if we keep on doing, keep on experimenting, keep on doing the things, we can definitely be successful in our life. Any field it can be. It is not about science only, but this lesson teaches us how we can excel in any field of our choice. So this is what about this lesson. So with that, thank you.